Hey everybody, Mr. Regan here, and today we're going to be looking at our modeling tool that we'll be using. But now our modeling tool is going to be focusing on our thornpalm populations. That would be our plant populations from our sim. And we're going to be looking to predict how our thornpalm population would change and how the distribution of traits would change after an environmental change occurred. So your job here is going to be to dive into our modeling tool and look to predict the distribution of each variation in response to how the environment changed from generation 1 to generation 50. Now, as you do that, your job will be to pull in our different pluses and minuses sign that represent our adaptive and non-adaptive traits, along with using our different bars in the second histogram to show and predict what you feel would happen. So let's kind of break this down real quick. Let's start with the environment that we see here at generation 1. We have our starting population of thorn palms with its unique distribution and variation happening in our earlier variations compared to our later variations or our higher variations of water storage. So one would be low water storage or the ability to only store a little bit amount of water, and then our 7, 8, 9s, and 10s would be traits that allow for the thorn palms to store a lot of water. So you'll see at generation 1 in the environment, it changed from high rainfall to low rainfall. So you're first going to decide in this environment where it changes from high rainfall to low rainfall, what would be our adaptive traits and what would be our non-adaptive traits. And your job will be to pull our pluses for adaptive traits onto here and our minuses for our non-adaptive traits, and you can put it above the bar, on the number, below the number, whatever works, but make sure that we can understand what you're saying. Don't be putting it off to the side here, but you'll drag and drop however many pluses and minuses you feel you need to show where our adaptive and non-adaptive traits are, wherever that may be. So once you've identified on the first graph what your adaptive and non-adaptive traits are in this low rainfall environment that they just entered, you're then going to predict if they were in a low rainfall environment for 50 generations, what would the distribution be? Again, pulling in your bars here to whatever parts of the graph you feel you need. Okay, if you want to make them bigger or smaller, you can, whatever works for you. But predicting what that distribution of different traits would be, obviously leaving any traits with no bars to say there wouldn't be any distribution. So that's how we add our adaptive and non-adaptive pluses and minuses to the first generation 1 graph to explain what traits would be adaptive and non-adaptive. That's how we add our bars to include data for our prediction for what the trait distribution would be after 50 generations. And that's how we would create our modeling tool predicting what happens to our thorn palm population. Take a second. Ask yourself, do you understand how to add the trait labels? That's the pluses and minuses, and the data. Those are the purple bars. And how to create a model that predicts how the population changes in its environment or how the thorn palms change in the high rainfall environment to the low rainfall environment. If you place your X in yellow or red, reach out. Otherwise, good luck.